This video is brought to you by xCool.
Even though the iPhone 15 Plus is not one-to-one with its bougier, higher refresh rate, titanium-built brother, the iPhone 15 Pro Max here, on paper and in practice for what you're getting, I would say it's pretty much on par or pretty much Max, or it shares the same Max last name for all intents and purposes here. Not everybody needs all the bells and whistles, and although I like them, and I, of all people, you know, this tech reviewer that lives, eats, and breathes Apple, can tell the difference between the Plus and the Max here, it's getting harder to tell. So if I'm really happy with this phone, chances are you will be too, and in this video, I want to get into why.
All right, first up here, I gotta say I love the design of the 15 Plus here. I think it's just as good, if not better, than what you're getting with the Pro, Max, and Pro. First up, you get actual colors, you know, pastels, so sort of very light shades of colors, but colors nonetheless here. You also get a lighter material in the frame, so aluminum opposed to titanium, which is lighter than stainless steel, but definitely not as light as aluminum. So the overall, you know, feel is lighter in the hand, which I quite like here. Part of me wishes that Apple made aluminum Pro models, but I digress here. I do like the titanium, but something that the bands or the chassis do share are these wonderful curved edges here. If the 15 lacked that, I would say the design would be definitively worse. But no, that's the biggest thing for me. I really love the way these phones feel in the hand. They don't feel as sharp as their predecessors. You also both get matte glass here, which feels very premium opposed to the glossy glass we've seen with their previous generation regular phones. So yeah, I would say the design here is just as good, if not better, simply because the 15 Plus is lighter, and that might make a difference to you here. Next up, the displays are also both wonderful. Both peak at, you know, typical brightness of around 1,000 nits. The Pro Max gets brighter outdoors, but honestly, you're not going to be always outside anyway, and for all intents and purposes, you know, it's going to max out at around 1,000 nits. I'm huge on display brightness, so, you know, I am really happy to see that here. Now standard with the regular iPhone models, so I'm satiated. Even though the 15 lacks 120 hertz, I gotta tell you, it's not that big of a deal. I hate to say it. I mean, Apple's input rate or input lag is so low, and the experience is so smooth that you can get really used to it and not really care, especially if you use other 60 hertz devices like a MacBook Air, or, you know, an iPad, you know, non-pro or whatever. Don't get me wrong, I like 120 hertz, but it isn't something I need to live. I would say the brightness is more of a concern for me indoors and, of course, outdoors as well. You also get the dynamic island, which I don't think is a gimmick here. I think it is quite wonderful for just seeing more information in your UI. So for example, I can set a 5-minute timer, and that can just be in the background. And I don't know, like, I like to sort of remember what's going on in the background, because otherwise I will forget, you know? So I enjoy that for timers and music and whatnot, and this has been a feature that has been standard since the iPhone 14 Pro, and of course has been baked into the iPhone 15 Pro. So, I mean, even though you don't get, of course, the same outdoor brightness and always on display and the same refresh rate, the displays are the same size, and they're great for typing as well. You get a lot of space to, you know, expand, or to have the keyboard sort of expand, you know, opposed to a smaller 6.1-inch display that you get with the iPhone 15 or the iPhone 15 Pro. So, you know, you get the same screen real estate, pretty much the same brightness in most cases, the dynamic island, all of that. That's why I'm saying this phone is pretty much max. And the last thing I'll say with regard to, you know, design and display and all this is USB-C. Unfortunately, not all USB-C ports are created equally. The 15 and 15 Pro have higher bandwidth with USB 3. The iPhone 15 and 15 Plus have USB 2, but I don't know. I don't really transfer data over wire a lot. AirDrop really does most of that, same with my 15 Pros. So when it really comes down to it, I'm really concerned just about charging, and it's so nice to finally have, you know, the same cable, you know, being able to be used with my iPhone and my iPad and, you know, the rest of the devices that I have that are USB-C based. It's one less cable I have to worry about normally. So that has been a treat. I mean, it's kind of a low bar thing to talk about, but it does definitely make a difference. So if you're thinking about upgrading to this device from a Lightning iPhone, you're gonna enjoy it, especially if you have other USB-C oriented devices. And speaking of charging, we have a perfect product segue into something that is involved with that. Once again, this video is brought to you by xCool and their 4-in-1 cable monster. This thing is really a beast in its own right, with 100 watts of fast charging throughput, a super durable, tough woven design that both my cats can't chew through, which can be a real problem at times. It also offers 4-in-1 connectivity with fixed USB-A and Lightning adapters, which can give you a USB-A to Lightning cable, USB-A to USB-C cable, USB-C to Lightning cable, and of course a USB-C to USB-C cable all in one. This is really useful if you have multiple different Apple products like a Lightning-based iPhone, Lightning AirPods, an iPad Pro, or MacBook with USB-C connectivity, along with charging scenarios where USB-C isn't the default output connector. Otherwise, you gotta keep an extra cable or two on hand, which is not convenient or clean. In short, this xCool cable monster is super well built, will last you quite a while thanks to its durability, and is definitely something you're going to want to grab in a pinch if you want to make sure you're prepared for 4 different types of charging scenarios. It comes in this neon green monster color variant along with a more typical black color, which you can buy on Amazon and their official website. I'll leave links in the video description if you're interested in checking this cable out.
All right, next up, let's talk about performance. And I'll make this quick because like I said in my 15 review, it's becoming a little irrelevant. Each new chip upgrade is welcome. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see 3nm processes come to iPhone, you know, with the A17 Pro and the iPhone 15 Pro, but the 5nm A16 Bionic in here, which is the 14 Pro chip, is more than good enough for pushing the iOS experience, everything you do regularly, plus some, you know, higher performance stuff like gaming and even some creative stuff if you do that. So it's gonna push the whole operating system and all of that, computational photography, etc. beautifully. You know, I have no issues with this, you know what I mean? Like my, you know, threshold for power is, you know, far under even what this iPhone is capable of RAM-wise, CPU-wise, all that. Even if you are a pretty high-end phone person, I mean, like, this is gonna do you justice, and Apple Silicon is the best out there, so even the last generation chip is gonna do you justice now and into the future, and I imagine that since Apple is releasing, you know, 2 new iPhones with different chips now, one last gen, one current gen, they're gonna be supporting it a little better as well, so I wouldn't be super concerned about that, not to mention Apple supports iPhones a long time anyway. So if you're worried about processor horsepower, RAM, all that in here, you're getting already an incredible package, and quite honestly, even high-end users like myself don't take advantage of the power that comes with the A17 Pro in the Pro phones. But beyond performance, which like I said is less relevant nowadays thanks to the great chips Apple has been putting in the iPhone the past couple of years, camera performance is another important thing to consider when upgrading to a new phone. And with the 15 series, just the regular 15 series, including the 15 Plus, you get really incredible camera performance simply because Apple put a brand new, or trickled down from the 14 Pro, 48 megapixel camera sensor in here, the main one, and that makes a huge difference for a few reasons. Number one, your typical photo size is now 24 megapixels up from 12, so you get a lot more resolution just with everyday pictures, compressed ones even still, so you can zoom in and you just retain a lot more quality, your resolution, so you can crop in or just zoom in and see more. Secondly, you can take a full 48 megapixel photo, which gives you even more detail. All you have to do is select the HEIF max file format, so that is really great here. It's not quite Pro RAW, but you get more resolution there. And then finally, with this 48 megapixel camera, you can crop in optically or digitally 2 times and still retain 4K video quality and 12 megapixel photo quality. So you get 2x cropping, 1x photo mode with high resolution photos, and of course your ultra wide experience too, which is still there. So I mean, you get a pretty solid camera system here. 85% I would say of what you're getting with the Pro Max phone, even though you're lacking the 5x telephoto and the 1.2 and 1.5x cropping at 24 megapixels. That's nice and all, but would I say it's $300 more worth it, especially if you're a more typical user? No, I don't even use the 1.2x cropping all the time. Also, I don't use the 5x telephoto all the time. And Apple doesn't even let you use it all the time because they're super finicky as to when it can come on. You know, half the time you're digitally cropping anyway. So the fact that you get 0.5, 1 and 2x here, and also high resolution photos standard, with all the bokeh and computational photography you get with iPhone, yeah, like the camera experience here is 85%, I would say, of what you're getting with the Pro and Pro Max. So for me, that's good enough. 0.5 and 1x and 2x usually cover what I capture on a daily basis, and even creatively as well.
Finally, battery life with the 15 Plus is absolutely astounding, incredible, the best I've ever experienced on a smartphone, and I'm actually using it as a mic because I completely forgot to shoot this segment because I didn't put it in my shot list, so it didn't get done. So I was in the middle of editing, I'm like, where's the battery portion? Where did I talk about that? turns out I didn't, so here we are. Yeah, I'm not gonna say this is the best performing smartphone when it comes to battery life, but it's definitely one of them. It's better than the Pro Max even, because that phone has a lot more beefy components and specs and refresh rate and higher brightness outside, etc., etc., etc. More powerful chip too, which possibly might draw a little more power. Anyway, this has served me so well. I brought this to New York a couple months back, and I was on cellular for like a whole 14-hour travel day, and I made a whole video about that. This thing just powered through, and of course you can fast charge it as well if you're, kind of burning through it, but you really can't. It's a real trooper, and I think that's thanks to the big battery on the inside of here, and also just the tapered back specs, like the not as bright display, the not as high refresh rate display, the last gen processor, which might power sip a little more, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, there are several components in here that make this a less power hungry phone, so you're gonna get great screen on time. And if you don't care about the Pro features like I've been bringing up, I think the extra screen on time is definitely worth your while.
So yeah, even though the 15 Plus again lacks the Pro Max features, particularly this year, a 5x telephoto, the A17 chip if you even need it, a titanium frame, USB-C or higher USB-C bandwidth with the connector, I mean, is that stuff that's gonna make or break your experience with the iPhone? I honestly don't think so, because the truth is it really doesn't for me. I like those things and I'll spend an extra arm and a leg on them because I'm a tech enthusiast that literally talks tech for a living. But if you're not me and you really don't see yourself making use of those extra features, saving an extra up to $300 is gonna be a better deal. Even when the 16 Pro Max comes out, Apple's still gonna be selling this. So, this is still gonna be a great phone because of the camera and display. I would say those are the two categories that were sort of holding back the regular line from being a, sort of model that I could easily use without sort of missing some of the Pro Max or Pro features. So this year, yeah, I would say now more than ever, the Pro and the regular line are very sort of intermingled, specifically with the Plus, with its incredible battery life and camera and display. But I digress. Check out this phone, whether you're watching this video now or later in 2024 or beyond. It's a fantastic handset, new or used. And that about wraps this video up. I hope this was enjoyable. Check out my link to xCool in the video description, along with my link to my other socials and my wallpaper pack. And as always, I'm Noah, and I will catch you all in the next one.